third season of Bridgerton coming out, Netflix had a problem. This show is actually based on a bunch of books from the early 2000s, and this season is about Penelope. And in her book, before she has her love story, she loses weight. Debuting in 2020, the show is about sappy romance, historically inaccurate but very pretty costumes, and other stuff. Released from 2000 to 2006, the books are about sappy romance and each book follows the path to marriage of one of the 8 Bridgerton siblings, with the one I'm talking about being Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. This one is for Colin Bridgerton falling in love with longtime family friend Penelope Featherington, the only character written or depicted to not be skinny. And at the very start of her book, we are told that before the events of the book take place, she has lost 30 pounds. But was her weight a huge plot point? Was Netflix going to need to include that? Here's the entire plot of Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Don't worry, this will be quick. Nothing happens in this book. Penelope has a sad life because she's been a wallflower. Her mom is mean to her, but loves her. She's larger than the other ladies at court. She's never learned to be herself around strangers, and she's in unrequited love with her bestie's brother, Colin, whose entire personality is that he likes travel, he likes food a lot, and he's nice. Except he's not nice, he's kind of very possessive and even gets kind of violent, but we'll get there. Colin and her are still buddies, he still dances with her sometimes, and after getting back from his travels, he says something like, "She's more attractive than I remember," but nothing is said about her weight. Lady Danbury, resident old lady, likes her because she's smart. Danbury puts out a reward for somebody to unmask Lady Whistledown, the anonymous gossip author who makes fun of everybody and is actually Penelope. Blah, 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 a lot of nothing happens until, and they did this in the show, she reads his travel journal without his permission. She thinks he's a great writer. He catches her and he gets mad, and then he cuts his hand on a candle or something, and she wraps it up and they ooh-woo at each other, and now he can't stop thinking about her. More nothing happens. Colin thinks that Lady Whistledown is his sister, the bestie. Colin and Pen get into a fight about this, and then she asks him to kiss her. He does, and it's written ridiculously. After mapping out her esophagus, he has feelings about it, but won't talk about it until much later. And he's now very possessive of her. Pen stops being Lady Whistledown because of the reward money, but then resident bully Cressida announces that she is Lady Whistledown to collect the reward. Pen and Danbury protest this, with Pen saying something about breaking my heart. That'll come back later. Pen goes off to publish one last Whistledown to refute Cressida. Colin finds out she's Whistledown by following her around, finding her Whistledown envelope, and he opens it even when she begs him not to, and he gets mad, not because she has a secret, but because she's Penelope, and she can't have a secret from him. He tells her she cannot publish the last one, and that she should just let everybody think it's Cressida, but Penelope cannot stand letting the bully take the credit. So, they have a big fight. Colin gets violent, and like all Bridgerton problems, the big fight is solved by diddling each other in the carriage. Same thing happens in the show, without the violence. After this, he asks her to marry him because he's such a gentleman. And from this moment on, he's really controlling, possessive, and even more kind of violent. At the engagement ball, oh no, the paper boys show up with the last Whistledown Pen wanted to publish. Colin gets really mad, and in his inner monologue says he's going to kill her. They have an even bigger fight. He's even more violent, and then they solve it by and it's written ridiculously. There's an entire paragraph about how much he likes her boobs, way too much stuff about being able to feel her innocence. They get married, but take several more chapters to actually talk about their problems. Yeah, the fight at the engagement ball doesn't get solved till after they're married. And then, 11th hour, literally last chapter. Oh no! Cressida shows up and has figured out that Penelope was Whistledown by her writing Break My Heart in the last issue, and she's now coming to extort Penelope for all the money she has. Penelope's plan is to just ask Lady Danbury to say that she was Whistledown all along. But no, Colin has a plan. But he doesn't tell her what the plan is. So they all go to this ball, and then his plan is to just announce to the entire ball that Penelope is Whistledown. But he doesn't tell her this until like 2 seconds before it happens. She agrees, and then he has this big moment that's half one of those really cringy wedding speeches that you might see Critical react to, and half taking away a big moment from the character that should have been having this moment. He announces this, and then everybody clapped. Literally. Pen's weight is mentioned one more time at the end just to have Colin say, "You're perfect." Prologue is Colin has published his travel journals and Penelope's writing a book, and I didn't finish the extra prologue because I stopped caring. Listen, I knew going in that this was just going to be a bad romance novel, but it didn't even do romance well. It really doesn't help that I just read Warbreaker, which is not a romance novel, but it gave me those, ooh, kiss, kiss feelings. At no point during this book did I feel any kind of, ooh, feeling. I don't like Colin. Also, conspiracy theory. After Bookpen loses weight, she says she's still not fashionably slender and calls herself pleasantly rounded, meaning the character never really is skinny. And I'm not going to make any comments about Nicola Coughlin's body, but I would not call her anything close to what Book Penelope calls her previous self. So the conspiracy theory is maybe they had smaller Pen the whole time. Cancel your subscription. Though they really make it hard for you to do that, don't they? Well, today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower your bills, and manage your money better. I feel like every show I want to watch now is on some different subscription, and I do not need to be paying for every month of something when all I'm doing is waiting for another season of Severance. Or God forbid you're trying to watch every season of Drag Race. But I use Rocket Money to see all those subscriptions in one place, and they make it really easy to safely and securely cancel reoccurring charges. You can even just do it in their app with a couple taps, which makes it so much easier than trying to find where in the many menus of your subscription service that they even put the cancel button. It's almost like they make it really hard to do that on purpose. It's a tinfoil bonnet. That's the joke. I'm also using Rocket Money to set budgets. Rocket Money is a great way to keep track of your spending habits because it lets you monitor spending by category, and it can send you notifications when you go over budget. You can even use Rocket Money to negotiate your bills to be lower, so it can really help you save a lot of money. Rocket Money has helped its customers save up to $740 a year when they use all the features, with over $5 million in canceled subscriptions. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/spaceman or use the link in the description to get started for free. And you can unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/spaceman to get started for free. Okay, I will put away my tinfoil bonnet. But Penelope, the main character, is completely robbed. It's mentioned several times that her biggest problem is that she doesn't know how to be herself around people, but we don't get any scenes of her improving that, and then to have her climax be someone talking for her? Getting back to the point of the video, her losing weight is only mentioned twice, once at the beginning, once at the end. And maybe it's implied with him saying she's more attractive than he remembered, that that's about her weight, but there are more words dedicated to how much he likes her boobs than about her weight. It's almost like, instead of actually having to do character development, she was just like, I'll have her drop 2 stone, that's growth enough. Ma'am! There's a lot of moments of Colin naming other things besides her weight that made him finally realize that he loved her, with his final realization being that he'd grown up. So it's not like she wasn't aware of the implications of this choice either. Like, yes, people lose weight, it's a thing that happens, but having that detail at the very beginning of this book, and it seemingly just being there so that she could be more socially acceptable for Colin to marry, would probably make people who are not skinny feel like they aren't worthy of love. So yeah, I kinda lied. Netflix never had a problem. Her losing weight is so inconsequential to the plot, it's as easily thrown out as her little sister, who's a character in this book that does nothing. So it makes sense that the show wouldn't include it and focus on her actual problem, that she has trouble talking to strangers. In the show, we got actual scenes of Pen practicing talking to strangers. We had Colin be the person that helps her with that. Colin gets competition. Colin gives actual reasons as to why he loves her. The boob paragraph gets replaced with, there are other parts of you I've been dreaming about, which is much better than him demanding that she face the mirror so that he can hold her boobs and look at them at the same time. I'm not kidding, that's written in the book. The sex scene actually has some lines from the book verbatim, like the part where Penelope is wanting to be an active player in the act. That's included, and I like that, but this still included, "This may hurt." Ooh. But there's at least no mention of her innocence. Cressida the bully gets a sympathetic backstory where she has awful parents and has to marry this gross old man, so she's given a decent reason to lie about being Whistledown, which she still does. Colin still follows her and finds out she's Whistledown that way, but she just kind of run off dramatically at a party, so it is a little more warranted, and he's mad, but he's not violent. They actually talk about their problems before the wedding, and we get a lot of insight into Colin's complicated feelings about her being Whistledown, but the fight is ultimately solved by making out. We actually get to see the wedding. Yeah, the romance book skips over the wedding. The extortion still happens, but it doesn't just come out of nowhere. It actually has a good lead up. And Penelope comes up with the stop the extortion plan herself. And the big moment, the big speech at the end to unmask Whistledown doesn't go to Colin. It goes to the scribe herself. The girl who has so much of a struggle talking to strangers tells an entire room of people her deepest secret. They took the most egregious thing about this book and they gave Penelope her power. And instead of everybody clapped, we got butterflies. Little bit of a ham-fisted metaphor, but I will take it. Rounded it out, Colin gets a moment where he comes to terms with her being Whistledown. It was actually really sweet and gave me the feely feels. And I won't even talk about the epilogue because it made me cry. The antagonist gets motivation. The love interest isn't a violent, possessive weirdo. And the main character grows. She faces consequences for her actions. She has an actual arc, an actually cute love story. And she gets all of that without any change to her body. But she does look a little different. They still gave the girl a makeover. This here is the whole reason why I specifically, the cosplay girl, made this video. This was genius. A big reason I watch this show is to see all the pretty people and all the pretty costumes. But before this season, Penelope was the only character that didn't get to be the pretty girl in the pretty costume. And a huge part of Penelope's character in both the book and the show is that she's forced to wear the family colors: yellow, orange, red, pink. And there's such a funny reference to this past version of Penelope in that when she walks down the aisle, they played Coldplay's Yellow. She was all yellow. She was. But as a natural born redhead, I will put away my annoyances with everyone's insistence that redheads look bad in certain colors. This isn't my real hair color, this is. But if you don't know, people tend to insist that redheads look bad in yellow and orange and red and pink because our skin is pink, so it washes us out. Color theory, the go-to redheads look good in this color is green. And if you're a redhead, you probably knew that, and you probably had the same yay reaction to her walking out for her big glow-up moment in forest green. It wasn't just the color. The big thing they did was the cuts of her dresses. So, in season 1 and 2, her dresses were not just yellow. They straight up didn't fit her. They put her in dresses that cut her off right at the widest point of her bust and then had the skirt going off the widest point of her bust, making her look as wide as she possibly could. And they put her in the tiniest little awful cap sleeves. And at the time, they were so unflattering that historical fashion YouTuber Lady Rebecca Fashions did an entire video about it. And in her video, she points out how unfair it is that Nicola Colin seemed to be left out of all the really pretty fancy Regency styles that the rest of the cast got. And that it seemed like the costume designers had no idea how to dress a plus-size person. And while it was a fair criticism at the time, I now believe that they did this on purpose to set up the glow up. They knew going in that they would not, that they could not ask this beautiful actress to change her body, but they still wanted to give the character a visual transformation. So they put her in ridiculously unflattering dresses for 2 seasons. And honestly, who would ever want to wear those little cap sleeves? Cap sleeves are the devil. Anyway, then all they had to do was just put her in clothing that actually fits her, bring that bust down to where it's supposed to be, get those sleeves a little longer, and bam, she looks beautiful, she looks comfortable, she looks confident. The reason why I love this so much, that they did this with the cuts of her dresses, is this is such a great illustration of the power of clothes that actually fit you. This stuff is important to everybody. No commercial piece of clothing is ever going to be your exact measurements, and the bigger the curves on your body, the truer that becomes. When you know how to do basic sewing techniques, you can go to the store, put something on, have it not fit you, and instead of thinking, oh, my body is wrong, I hate my body, you just think, oh, I need another size up, and then I can take it down a little bit and make it fit me perfectly. That's me begging people outside my audience to go watch my sewing videos. They're not boring, I promise. I work very hard to make them not boring. I made one about this dress. You should go watch it. It's not boring. I relate so much more to her walking out in that dress that fits her than I do to anything written in this book. I relate to it because for a long part of my adult life, I was not skinny. And before you ask, do not ask random people on the internet how to lose weight. That is something you should talk to your doctor about. Anyway, I relate way more to show pens glow up because I learned how to sew when I was still that size. And it completely changed my perspective about my body and how it related to clothing. And I do not relate to a character who loses weight and doesn't think about it, doesn't still have insecurities about her body that she has to combat, and doesn't notice or acknowledge the attention difference. She's written as somebody who lost weight with no relatable characteristics for somebody who has also lost weight. But I related to this. When Penelope walked out in that green dress, it took me back to being like 12 when I had to go to the school counselor for being bullied by the first person to ever call me fat. And the counselor telling me that the forest green hoodie I was wearing looked great on me and that it was my color. Made me think about when I finally learned how to make my own clothes and how pretty they made me feel because they fit me because I made them for me. Having the power to change the cuts of your clothing can be a source of confidence to anyone at any size. And if anything, I'm the only one allowed to cry here that my representation of a redhead that lost weight got taken away from me, and I'm not crying because I did not relate to this one. I'm celebrating. And this is how I celebrate. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel directly, you can check out my Patreon. We'll get some exclusive content. But if you're just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sending the video to a friend of your mom, or subscribing, please subscribe, then you're supporting the channel too. So thank you. And a big thank you to my newest big support tier patrons, Mia Coolis, Swoon Me, Jokerless, and Call Me Ash. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!